VTI or SCHB. You're considering investing in a broad-based ETF, a foundational ETF. Which one is better? Which one should I use? What are the pros and the cons? If these are your questions, you're in the right place. Welcome back to another episode of the MD Investor, where today we're going to look at VTI and SCHB. So before we jump into my computer, just remember I'm a regular guy on YouTube just giving you my opinion. Before you take any action, just remember I am a regular guy on YouTube. Make sure you do your own due diligence and consult a licensed financial advisor. With that being said, let us jump to my computer.
So here we are in my computer on the ETF.com website, about to compare the ETFs, VTI, and SCHB. So VTI is going to be on the left, and SCHB is going to be on the right. At the close of the last trading day, VTI was last trading at $258.05. SCHB was last trading for $60.61. Both up point VTI up 0.09% and SCHB up 0.08%. First, VTI. More people probably have heard of VTI than SCHB. VTI has been around longer. The inception date for VTI was May 24th, 2001. So it's over 20 years old, right? So about 23 years old. So it's a lot older. SCHB is newer. It's only been around since November 3rd, 2009. VTI is issued by Vanguard and SCHB is issued by Charles Schwab. The expense ratio or the expense ratio are the same, 0.03% or 3 basis point, which means you'd pay $3 for every $10,000 you have invested annually. Assets under management goes to VTI at $388 billion, which kind of makes sense because it's been around longer. SCHB hasn't been around as long, only since 2009. Assets under management, $27.6 billion. Average daily volume is $760 million of VTI gets traded daily. For SCHB, only about $50 million of SCHB gets traded. VTI tracks the CRSP US total market, which has 3,685 stocks. All right, so that's a lot of stocks that it tracks. SCHB tracks the Dow Jones US Broad Stock Market. That's the index it tracks, and there's about 2,436 holdings in that. So not as much holdings. Still diversified, but not as much holdings. Now, let's look at the top 10 holdings, and then we'll look at the performance, right? So VTI is on the left, and SCHB is on the right. So the top 10 holdings of both are pretty much the same, and they represent about the same percentage, right? The top 10 holdings of both represent about maybe 28% or so. On both VTI and SCHB, the top 10 holdings, on both VTI and SCHB, they have Microsoft in the first position at about 6%. Apple is in the second position at about around 5%, right? It's a little more in SCHB at 5.32. Apple is 4.94, but around 5%. The number 3 holding is NVIDIA in both cases, and it's about a little over 4%. The number 4 holding is Amazon in both cases. It is 3.31% in VTI and 3.44% in SCHB. Meta Platforms, right, which is Facebook, is the 5th holding at about 2%. Alphabet Class A and Alphabet Class C. Alphabet Class A is a 6 holding, 1.75% in VTI, 1.99% in SCHB. The 7th holding is Berkshire Hathaway in VTI, but in SCHB, the 7th holding is Alphabet Class C at 1.68%. And so what we see here is the 6th and 7th holdings are flipped around in both cases. Number 7 and 8 is Berkshire Hathaway, and then Alphabet Class C. And in SCHB, it's Alphabet Class C and Berkshire Hathaway Class B. They flip that 7 and 8 position. They have Eli Lilly as the 9th position in both, and Broadcom is the 10th position in both. The top 8 holdings are the same in both, with some very minor changes. Let's look at the returns. The year-to-date returns are similar. For VTI, it's 9.06%, and it's about 9.12% for SCHB. So it's going to be very similar. The one-year return is very similar, 28.28% and 28.43%. Not that big of a significant difference. The 3-year return is about 7.22%. The 7-year return, the three-year return, very similar. 7.22 for VTI, 7.33 for SCHB. 5-year return, 13.70% for VTI, 13.74% for SCHB, and the 10-year return is the exact same, 12.21% for both. Sectors are going to be pretty much the same. Technology services, electronic technology, finance, health technology, retail, trade, producer manufacturing, consumer non-durables, consumer services, energy, minerals, commercial services, utilities, and health services. They're pretty much about the same, right? So you're going to get the same diversification in the sectors in both ETFs. The P/E ratio, the price to earnings multiple, is going to tell you how much are you paying for every dollar of earnings, or the relative expense of the ETF. For VTI, it's 26.84, which means you're paying about $26.84 for each dollar of earnings. And for SCHB, it's going to be 26.46. You can pay a little less, but it's pretty similar, not that significant.
So what's the verdict? Should you invest in VTI or SCHB? Is one better than the other? Well, it's probably not a right answer. We see that they both give you excellent coverage of the total stock market. Yes, VTI has been around longer and it has more holdings, right? About 3,600 versus only about 2,500 approximately for SCHB. But still, that's thousands of stocks. Top 10 holdings are pretty much the same with some very minor differences. The returns are about the same. The expense ratio are about the same. Assets under management, that's something that's different. Because VTI has been around longer, it has a lot more assets under management. More people, for whatever reason, feel more comfortable and they're investing in VTI. SBHB has been around not as long, only since 2009. But SHB has been around not as long, so it has less assets under management. Honestly, I don't think you can go wrong with investing in either for the section of your portfolio that you want to allocate for broad market exposure. I think you can choose either one. So I don't think you can, go wrong with either one. I'm partial to Vanguard because I invest in Vanguard, but you can go with SCHB, right? So this is the MD Investor Guide giving you another video to increase our financial IQ so we can teach our children and break the cycle of generational poverty. MD Investor out.